Coming up on this episode of The Social Hour, Amber and I are talking about where all the New York Times blogs are going, things that Pinterest has ruined, and why Victorious might be your next online presence. All that and more coming up next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is The Social Hour with Sarah Lane and Amber MacArthur, episode 168, recorded Thursday, June 26th, 2014. This episode of The Social Hour is brought to you by lynda.com. Learn what you want when you want with access to over 2,400 high-quality online courses, all for one low monthly price. To try it free for 7 days, visit lynda.com/social hour. That's lynda.com/social hour. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of The Social Hour from Twit World Headquarters in Petaluma, California. I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacArthur. I'm here in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, back in my little studio. And I'm coming into that time, Sarah, where it's starting to get really warm. And I will tell you that sometimes I do fear that I may just pass out in the middle of the show. So
that's right, because a lot of people don't know that your home studio is actually down in your basement.
It is.
And you've got lights and confined space, and Toronto is hot in the summer.
Yeah, you'll see me start to sweat if you watch the video version of this, but nonetheless, keeps me on my toes, and we have lots to talk about today.
Yeah, we sure do. I will try my best not to sweat as well, but with these lights, you never know. So let's start with the story that you added to our lineup, that the New York Times, which of course is a newspaper, but also has a lot of kind of standalone vertical blogs that focus on certain subjects, they're not all going to be around much longer.
Yeah, so based on this article from Poynter, it says that almost half of the New York Times blogs will close or merge. Now, towards the end of the article, they do use a term that I didn't really want to use, but I kind of have to now. It's called the blog apocalypse, and they said it, not me, Sarah. But nonetheless, they're talking in this article about how the New York Times is, in fact, getting rid of some of their blogs, merging them into other areas, keeping, of course, some of their more popular blogs. They mention a few like Dealbook, Well, and Bits. But really, they talk about the fact that the internet has moved on. It's not necessarily about these blogs anymore and about the experience people are having there, and they're trying to evolve with the times.
Do you think that the New York Times feels like, especially since, even though it's, arguably the most popular newspaper in the U.S. anyway, or one of the most well-respected and oldest, that it feels like it dilutes the New York Times experience? Maybe I really, I'm looking at the blog directory on the New York Times, and some of these I know, but some of them I don't. I've never heard of You're the Boss in the business and finance section, for example. I've probably read articles out of there, but some of these, let's say you were a huge fan of Bits, which is in the technology section, which I know Nick Bilton has been contributing to, although I think he said he's going to move over to something in the art and style section. I thought that's what he said in a recent tweet. But some of these, let's say that you don't really associate with the New York Times. Does it seem like folding most of these independent products back into the main newspaper will help their numbers?
Well, I mean, they do say in the article that some traffic on some of the blogs was basically so small that really, at the end of the day, it just doesn't make sense for them to continue to do that because, as they say, blogs are really take a lot of work and a lot of content needs to be written on a regular basis, and they just can't necessarily keep up with that if there isn't the demand from the readers. So I'm not sure how it's going to help them. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it's probably more about their bottom line and more about the fact that, hey, they don't have to create potentially this much content, and they're changing the format as far as the type of content they're putting out there. I do find this really interesting, though, and Sarah, we're talking about the end of blogs on the New York Times in some respects, but also I think when we talk about blogging and I think about something like Medium, which we've talked about a lot in the past, it seems like Medium is just exploding and showing us that blogs are still really relevant.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I can see where the New York Times says we just don't need to put resources toward blogs that aren't getting great traffic. You know, either absorb these authors and use them in different areas in the newspaper, move things around. But that does make sense. But you bring up a good point. It's not as if the idea of blogging is going away. I think that maybe these standalone, but see, Medium is different too, because Medium is a place for a bunch of people to blog kind of under one umbrella, where the New York Times seemed a little almost spread too thin, almost too many topics, especially multiple topics in different categories. So I guess it's just sort of the evolution of, we all want to read smart people talking about interesting things, but some of the solutions that had been rolled out in the past just don't work anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I think blogging too, if you think back historically in the social media or internet world, blogging was at one point kind of the sexy thing to do. Well, that's not the case anymore. I mean, people are much more into doing things like Vine or Instagram and much more visual content. So in some ways, I wonder if maybe even just using the term blogging has really not necessarily helped the New York Times. It made them seem a little bit old in some ways, that they weren't really adapting and using some of these new technologies and tools. So that could be part of it as well. So we'll see what happens with that, but I suspect they're not the only ones considering a move like this. And in some ways, blogging, the term itself is kind of irrelevant anymore as you produce content on your website, whether it's a blog or not. As long as you have good content there, I think that's all that really matters.
Yeah, we both have journalist friends. I have friends who write for the New York Times and Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post, and it's weird how old school the whole thing really is still. And these are, you know, people who are, for the most part, working in the technology sector of these publications, because that's why I know them. And, you know, a friend of mine who writes for the Wall Street Journal was saying the other day, you wouldn't believe how much it still is a huge source of pride to just be published in the actual paper. Because of course the online version of a lot of these newspapers is, yeah, it's much more fluid, it's updated more frequently, you don't have to print it out, it's not on anyone's doorstep. Yet there is still this cachet involved with doing things the old way. And I think that it's not a bad thing, but it does tend to, I mean, talk about holding evolution back in a traditionally just older medium.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things with blogging that I really. I think that it's definitely not dead, but I think just especially with advertiser dollars too, Sarah, which we haven't really touched on. But the fact is that in many cases, advertisers are becoming more interested in video content and different types of content that they can monetize. So it's all part of all the disruption that's happening. And to your point about seeing something in print, I just got a magazine that I subscribe to, and the whole issue talks about the future of television and all of the disruption that's happening there. And you're right. I mean, there was something about getting this magazine in print and reading about what was happening that kind of legitimized it in a different way, perhaps, than online would.
Yeah, it is fascinating. I say adieu to some of the New York Times blogs that will not make it, but hopefully that just means that people get shifted around a little bit and there aren't a lot of jobs getting lost. But yeah, I mean, yeah, the New York Times. I know that the subscribership is it's just indicative of the times that we live in. Newspaper subscriptions are not on the rise, and the people who work at these publications have to change with the times.
Yeah, a lot of changes happening. This is an interesting story, Sarah. This is from Amnesty International, and they've just come out with an app that is called a panic button. And the idea behind panic button, and it's for Android right now, is that it's for people who are working, perhaps like activists who are working overseas in areas that could potentially be dangerous. And this app appears like a calculator icon on your Android device. And if you are to press the number 1 5 times, it will immediately send out an SOS message in a discreet way telling people your current location. So you choose 3 people who would be emergency contacts. It will tell them your location, and they plan to evolve the app into doing even more, including potentially blasting out to social media sites or shutting your social media sites down altogether. A really interesting idea. I mean, they mentioned they've tested it already in 17 countries. A great way, it seems, to ensure that people who are working under dangerous conditions and trying to provide help are in fact a little bit safer.
It kind of reminds me of an app that we talked about quite a while ago on this show called Circle of Six, and that was more of a I'm in physical danger. It's sort of like a one press, hey, I'll be able to send out a text or a phone call, whatever, to people that I trust because I'm feeling unsafe. And I think it was marketed toward college students. Yeah, that's right. And so this sounds a little bit more on, a bigger scale of if there's something going on, you would be able to shut down a variety of your presences online. Is that right?
Eventually, yeah. So that could be the second phase of the app. So right now, it will just send out that SOS message with your location. So obviously, it's using location-based technology to send out exactly where you are. And you can do it in a discreet way because it looks like a calculator app. So it's hopefully a little bit more subtle. But I've always thought technology like this was interesting. I mean, you see it, Amnesty International using it in situations where obviously it's a life or death situation. But I also imagine if there were situations, as a woman walking home from somewhere at night and you needed to send out an SOS message. I mean, Cuff, the wearable technology jewelry that we talked about on the show before, they do a similar thing. But I think it's going to be interesting to see the progress in this area of some of this neat tech to keep us safe.
Amber, we just got a tweet from, was it sent to us from anybody?
Yeah, so it's, I think this was sent to us by Birmingham Updates. So it looks like this is obviously Birmingham, I guess, Alabama, if I'm right.
Is it? Or is it Birmingham in the UK? Let's see.
Oh, good question.
Good question.
That's a great question. Well, they're tweeting with us right now, so I'm sure we can find out a little background information on this.
Yeah, okay. No, it's Birmingham, UK. So this was a tweet that was sent to you, actually, from this account, which I assume is supposed to keep people up to date on the city of Birmingham, which is actually quite a large city. And this is a very interesting use of an animated GIF that was sent out. Now, mine seems to be glitching. Okay, so Anthony's is working fine. This is, it looks like surveillance footage of a robbery taking place, right? Two armed men seen in an apartment block. Call 101 if you have any info. Maybe that's like the 911 of Birmingham, England. Speaking of safety and SOS messages, this is actually a very interesting. I mean, thank goodness that GIFs on Twitter exist because it's probably the best way to show the surveillance video that they have.
Yeah, so he mentions that they use this as part of an appeal for witnesses to come forward, and they're able to see basically the quick little GIF, give people some insight into what these criminals look like. And the question that came to us overall was, what do you think about GIFs on Twitter? And then he came back and mentioned this example that they're using right now. So probably one of the most useful examples that I've seen of GIFs on Twitter, and it's definitely pretty innovative.
Yeah, wow. That's I hope everyone's safe. My goodness, it's interesting to see that rolling out in real time. But thanks to BAM Updates, BHAM Updates on Twitter. If you live in the Birmingham area and for whatever reason aren't following them, you probably should find out more about what's going on. Bad news. Yeah, get those guys. Okay, let's move on now to a new app from our friends at Buffer, who have been guests on the Social Hour in the past. They've got a new app called Daily. I just downloaded it, but I haven't played around with it at all, Amber. What does it do?
Daily is a little bit like Tinder, and I mean, they admit that in the description. It's sort of like a Tinder experience with the gestures when you're used to swiping one way or the other way, and it's a way for people to find and share content. So you know what a pain it is, Sarah, sometimes when you're looking for new content to post across social media sites, and you don't really know what content you should put out there. This is a really simple swipe-inspired way to do this, and you can choose articles and links that you may want to post to Buffer to your social media sites. And if you don't like them, you press the X, just like you would decline potential interest from someone who wanted to date you.
I'm trying, of course, to sign in, and I'm trying to remember my Twitter password, and of course, that's always easier said than done. But I love the idea of this. Now, I guess one of the things that gives me pause is, if I really am looking for things to share and I'm not finding them myself, is this really the best way to share well, I don't know. They're not letting me sign in. I'm pretty sure that was my right password. Maybe I could sign in with Facebook here. But You know, it's sort of it's like, should I actually really be posting anything? That said, though, I think Buffer's model is a really good idea. They've got all sorts of tools that I know you and I both find helpful, and the idea of the swiping is starting to become not only familiar to all of us, but really handy. It just sort of makes sense. It's gesture-based stuff, and if I can find quality information this way, it's almost like a stumble upon model, isn't it? It's sort of like, just give me something I might be interested in so that I can do the least amount of work possible, but get a lot out of it.
Yeah, and it is a lot like Stumble Upon. In fact, right now, there's a version of it that is free, but they talk in this article on TechCrunch about a pro version where you would be charged access, probably to get even more relevant articles. They talk about that price, paid tier system, and it would be called the Awesome version, available for $102 a year for individuals and higher rates for businesses, and same sort of thing where they would help you choose what content you potentially want to put out there and help you manage the posting as well. So, you know, it's interesting to see that the Tinder gestures really work their way into other apps. But I have to say that Tinder, I mean, it's so well designed, so easy to use, that it kind of makes sense for a bunch of different scenarios, content just being one of them.
Okay, can we just say for a second, okay, so I'm trying to log in to Buffer's daily app, right? So I'm here, I'm trying to sign in with Twitter, I'm getting an error, okay, that's fine. Now, isn't the deal with Facebook that it will say things like, we will pull, you know, your activities and interest and information on, you know, who your friends are, and you say yes. And then when they say, Daily would like to post to your friends and manage pages on your behalf, that's the one I always say no to. Now, isn't it supposed to be that if you say, no, I don't want that, that you continue on? Because I have found, and this is not the first time this happened, I found that certain apps kind of go like, oh, in that case, you're not signing in through Facebook.
Yeah.
Because it's either all or nothing. And I think that can't be right.
Yeah, I have seen apps do that in the past as well, though, Sarah, where they kind of force you to give them access to those accounts. I mean, I guess with Buffer, I mean, they're assuming that you are going to want to post those.
I guess that's true.
Articles, right?
I guess that's probably it's sort of the point of the app.
Yeah, so they probably think it's irrelevant if you just want to log in and look at the content. Although I would do exactly what you do. I just want to go in and kind of see some of the articles, because the truth is, just like on Tinder, I was playing with my friend's Tinder account, and it's very easy to, by mistake, say that you want to meet or message with someone because you just swiped the wrong way. And the same thing for content, right? I mean, I would prefer to go in and look around before I be ready to commit to something like that. But I can kind of understand them not wanting you to do that.
Yeah, I guess it's probably worth, I guess, in the setup stage of any new app, being a little bit more explicit. Like this, the whole point of this app is to be able to share quality content with people and kind of have fun with gestures while doing it. So you're going to need to, you know, agree to that, because where else would it go? But still, it still confuses me sometimes.
It's a little confusing.
Especially when I enjoy Facebook login because it makes my life easier. I just say yes. Log in through Facebook, and then I don't have to create a new account and blah, blah, blah. All right, talking about social networks, let's switch gears and focus in on Pinterest for a few minutes with it's kind of a cheeky article that you found on shinyshiny.tv about subjects that Pinterest has ruined forever.
I know. You know, we've seen all these reports recently about Twitter becoming more popular than Pinterest. We know Pinterest has a massive audience. And I thought this was fun because they really talk about how Pinterest has ruined certain things in our lives. The first one they put on the list is relationships. They basically say, listen, if you can't be out in a meadow in love, frolicking about, then, you know, you're probably not on Pinterest sharing that, and you're probably not enjoying yourself. They also say that Pinterest has ruined things like weddings, because Pinterest has such beautiful photos of weddings, and the list goes on and on.
It's really funny. I really got a kick out of this. Because it's this sort of idea that kitchens is another one, which is, it's so true, because so much about Pinterest is it's that if money were no object, this is what my back garden would look like, you know? Or if I could have the most beautiful Tahitian beach vacation, this is what it would look like. And so there's a lot of aspirational posting to Pinterest. That's sort of the fun of it. At the same time, hair, that's really funny. I actually started to make a board about cool hairstyles that I wanted to try at some point. And I couldn't keep up with it because there is so much of that on Pinterest that it's almost as if you'll never get there. You know? Yeah. You aspire to this level of wedding and you're never going to afford it. And so it's not so much that Pinterest is ruining these things, but all of a sudden we know what they look like when they're darn near perfect. And so what do the rest of us normals do?
I love the exercise one. It says, there are muscles I didn't know existed before Pinterest, making Jerry Holloway's abs circa 2001 look like a comforting lavender flight pillow. The Fitspo trend has found a natural, if sometimes alarming, home on the site. Anyway, they go on and on. But it reminds me of a BuzzFeed article I read recently, Sarah, that talks about Instagram, I think, in real life. Did you see that floating around?
No.
So basically, they would talk about real life versus Instagram. And on Instagram, you would get these really fit girls who were at the beach having a margarita, and then they would have a real life picture, which would be some, you know, fat guy in a Speedo. It's
oh, yeah. Right. Yeah, yoga on Instagram. Oh, isn't that lovely? Yoga in real life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, of course. The perception and the reality is never quite the same. These are funny.
It's a good little post. But it's true, right? I mean, we always put our best photos forward.
Of course.
And they don't necessarily reflect real life. I don't know if that's necessarily good or bad, but I think it does put pressure on people to feel like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not attractive enough. I'm not skinny enough. I don't have the best stuff, because that constantly, that being inundated with all those pictures, you just start to feel like, oh, I got to do something about it. So I'm sure it does have an impact at some level.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I like to think I can be, you know, self-deprecating and be laughing with everyone else, but it's like there are lots of pictures that just would never make it to public to anything. I mean, just, you know, that everybody, yeah, you're trying to put your best foot forward. I think the Pinterest board thing, and the fact that, you know, Pinterest has ruined cakes, because nobody will ever have a cake as beautiful as the cakes on, you know, that you keep seeing crop up on Pinterest. There's some truth to that, though. And that is part of the reason that I think, you know, people get frustrated and discouraged following their friends on any social network, particularly something like Facebook, which is obviously very photo-based, because it is putting the best version of your life out there, and it can make everyone else around you feel a little, well, not, you know, like you're not trying hard enough or something.
Yeah, no, I would say 98% of my life I would never want photographed.
Oh my goodness, no. Sometimes even on Snapchat, which is like 5 seconds and it's gone, with people that I know and trust and would forgive me. Sometimes I still, you know, I'll take like a funny picture and I'm like, there's just no way that I'm sharing this with no one can see this.
I know.
It's that bad. But anyway, that is neither here nor there. My Snapchat rejects. I hope no one ever makes a Tumblr about them. Let's move on to a story found in search engine land. It's kind of interesting. So I'm sure you've all noticed that if you search for, I don't know, some particular phrase or word or topic in Google, if something is surfaces a Google Plus post that someone you know has posted somewhere that is relevant to what you're searching for, it shows up in the search results. Google started doing that, I don't know, a couple years ago, I guess, Amber. Danny Sullivan notes, or Barry Schwartz actually, who also works with Danny Sullivan, notes over on Search Engine Land that Google has started stripping out some information, not the article that not the search result that points you to the article. The Google Plus articles will continue to surface, but strips out a little bit more of the information. For example, the author's profile picture, which I always thought was actually pretty helpful, because, okay, so the top rectangle there is what it's going to look like going forward. So it's, it's basically a search result that says, here's an article that might be relevant to your interests. If you go down a little bit, that's what it used to look like. So we've got a face, you see how many Google Plus circles this person is in, though some of that context is going to get stripped out. And I don't know what you think about that, Amber. I mean, I guess it streamlines a Google search result page a little bit more. But at the same time, if I search for something and I saw your profile pic pop up, I would be, first of all, I would notice it quicker, but I'd be more inclined to click on it because I'd want to see what my friend had to say.
It's so bizarre. I'm actually just reading through some of the comments on Search Engine Land just to get a sense of what other people think, because my initial reaction is, why would Google do that? It doesn't make any sense at all. And like you, I'd be more inclined to click on an article if it had someone's picture on it. And pretty much everybody in the comments says the same thing, that click-through rates are higher if there's a photo attached, which makes sense. It kind of legitimizes the content in some way. And I can't find anyone who thinks this is a good idea. They assume that Google's just trying to save some real estate, but it seems like a strange move for them, because I know they are pushing harder on promoting people through Google Plus and authors, and this is just kind of a strange move for them.
I think it's interesting timing too, not to speculate too much on what Google's doing, because heck, I don't know. But this is the week of Google I/O, which is a developers conference. It's a really big deal. There was it was a big day for Google I/O yesterday. A lot of stuff was announced. The company walked us through the next version of Android and how Android is going to be baked into all sorts of things, and what the company's moving toward. And Google Plus was almost not mentioned at all. And I think that a lot of people are quick to jump on Google and be like, see, this is showing that Google Plus isn't working for the company. And I don't think that's true at all, but I wonder how much the company is starting to step back from really heavily promoting Google Plus in places where it might not necessarily make sense. If I don't use Google Plus at all, which I don't really, but I have an account, but let's say for some reason I had never even heard of it, would that make sense in my search results? Would it be confusing to me? Would I wonder if it was an ad? So maybe that's just something that Google is thinking, this might not be the best place to promote our social network.
Yeah, I still, it's just amazing to me with Google Plus. Sorry, not to go off on a different conversation, but I mean, I think it's a great platform. They have lots of great content there, great tools, but it still amazes me that they haven't figured out how to help move it along. I mean, you think back to our conversations around things like the Yo app, where 1 million people have downloaded it. It's like, how can Google not figure out how to build their own social network that's successful? I don't know. I don't get it.
I don't get it either. And I know that sometimes when we talk about this, we get, angry mobs of people saying, it's fine, it's great, everyone loves it. If you don't like it, use something else. And that's true too. I know people colleagues who absolutely love Google Plus. That is their #1 place to post and share and all that good stuff. But it does seem like for a company as powerful as Google, for whatever reason, there's some special sauce that's missing there. Because why am I not using it? I love social networks, but we might not be able to figure that out right now today. What we can figure out, though, is how to thank one of our very favorite sponsors ever for sponsoring this episode of The Social Hour. Who is it today? None other than Lynda.com. Lynda.com helps you learn and keep up to date with software, and you can pick up new skills, and you can explore new hobbies with video tutorials on a wide range of subjects. You could, maybe you just feel like your online know-how is a little lacking, or maybe you really want to get into Photoshop or some sort of post-production realm. Maybe you are in the social media side of your business and you're just really looking for new ways to engage with customers that make you seem savvy and not kind of behind. That's what Lynda.com is for any software that you might be using. Anything from Microsoft Office to Adobe Creative Cloud. They just released some new apps and made some changes to pricing on Creative Cloud, to Final Cut Pro. That's Final Cut Pro is something that it's just always good to be up to date on. That's what lynda.com is great for. It helps you keep current with product updates and learn all the ins and outs of these software tools that maybe you've shied away from this whole time. It's time to learn with lynda.com. Lynda.com offers over 500 business courses, stuff like getting things done, GTD. You've heard a lot about that, but are you really taking advantage of how to get things done to make your productivity go through the roof? Or SEO fundamentals. SEO, still very important in this day and age. That's still how a lot of businesses get attention, get recognized. Google AdWords Essential Training. Over 2,400 courses are on lynda.com. So I'm mentioning a few, but I couldn't possibly even scratch the surface in the next couple minutes of highlighting how many tutorials you can find at lynda.com. You know, it's kind of cool too, is they work directly with the bigger software companies to provide not only timely training, but often the same day as a new version of a software or release hits the public market. So you can be the first one who's completely up to speed with the ins and outs of the latest software. You can also watch from your computer, your tablet, your mobile device. Does not matter where you are or what you're doing. You can start a course somewhere and pick it up later. If you have 15 minutes, good to go. Maybe you've got a lot more time. Maybe you've got a week. Do you have a week? I don't know. Maybe you've got some vacation coming up. You're going to be hanging out, thinking about getting a new hobby, learning some new tricks that'll help you when you come back to work. That is what lynda.com is great for. It's only $25 a month to access the entire lynda.com course library, 2,400 videos. Or for $37.50 per month, you can subscribe to the premium plan, which includes exercise files. You can follow along with the instructor's project. You can use all the same assets that they're using. And I mentioned maybe you've got a free week. Well, why not go to lynda.com right now and start a free 7-day trial? lynda.com/social hour, that's lynda.com/social hour, and you can access the entire library, 2,400 courses for 7 days, completely free. There is no limit on all of the courses you can absorb. I like to say, just, challenge yourself. See what you can learn in a week. They've also created a playlist with some suggested courses to get you started. If you're overwhelmed by your choice, Lynda wants to help you get started. So go to lynda.com/social hour. Get started. If you have a course you found super helpful, that's really helped you, and you think we should pass it along to our social hour community, please do let us know. The social hour at twit.tv. And thanks to Lynda for sponsoring this episode. All right, Amber, let's get into our spotlights of the week. And let's start with Tastemade, which just not only launched an Android app, it previously had an iOS app, but got some new funding to grow the business.
Yeah, so they just raised $25 million, and they are releasing an Android app, and the community continues to grow. In many ways, from what I've read, Sarah, this is really like the Food Network, but in digital format. So it's also a community where people can come together and share their love of food. I mean, a great place for foodies to go. We know how popular food is online. I believe that we talked recently about a Pinterest stat that came out that said that there are 100 million food-related boards just on Pinterest alone.
Oh my gosh.
So a pretty massive audience. I don't use this service at all, but I've read more and more about Tastemade recently, and it just makes me think that this is going to give some of the cable companies out there who run food networks on television a run for their money.
I actually read an article, I believe it was in the Los Angeles Times, something like that recently, and they were profiling I guess it was like the downtown LA, which used to be somewhat of sort of a ghost town as far as startups and businesses go. Kind of some of the new companies that were revitalizing that area of town, because Los Angeles is huge and really spread out. And Tastemade and their studio was one of those companies. And
cool.
Yeah, and the reporter, it might have actually been a Recode article where one of their authors spent some time down in LA with a bunch of startups. But
Okay.
She went to the Tastemade studio and she was like, this was awesome. There were celebrities there, and not that that's what LA is all about, and not Tastemade either, but it was sort of this hive of activity, and they had these really neat sets, and I was like, wow, I had no idea it was such a big operation. It certainly sounds like there are other people with money that are interested in growing the model, but I love the idea of this, particularly because you and I have talked about how fun it would be to kind of merge food and technology in some show in the future. And this seems to be, it's not so much, Tastemade is much more about food than technology, but it's technology solutions for topics that really appeal to so many of us.
Yeah, I was just looking on their YouTube channel because I was trying to get a sense of how much their videos are viewed on a regular basis. I found one on YouTube called The Slacker Shake, and it says AKA best milkshake recipe ever. And just a simple little 36-second video about how to make a milkshake has 2.3 million views. So you can see.
That is amazing.
It's amazing, right?
What?
And it's all really well done. I mean, very high production values, very good little graphics, and you can really see how they've been able to capture an audience. And it's neat to see them grow into a pretty large community.
I think part of it is naming something good. For example, how to make the best milkshake ever. Oh my gosh, is that how you make it? Holy
ice cream
crap.
sandwiches in the milkshake. Who would ever thought of that?
Oh, I want that so
Doesn't that
bad.
look good?
Oh my gosh. Holy cannoli. Anybody who's listening to the audio version of the show, you really need to either watch our show and watch the video, or go to the Tastemade channel on YouTube and find best milkshake ever.
Doesn't that look good?
Yeah, it really does.
It's crazy.
I don't actually get the Food Network because I don't have cable, Amber, and I'm not enough of a go-getter to find a lot of these shows online or wherever they might be. But I love the idea of food shows. They're fun for me to watch. So Tastemade is perfect. I mean, it's the perfect next-gen version of this sort of stuff, especially when it's teaching you how to make something that you don't know how to make. I watched a tutorial, it didn't come from Tastemade, recently, on how to make the best pour-over coffee, because it seems like that's just, I don't know, but it's all about the materials that you have and the beans and whatever, and it's not hard, but there's some prep and there's some knowledge going into it that I didn't have, and I just think that this genre it just helps everybody, because we all got to eat.
Yeah, no, it's really well done. So definitely encourage people to head on over to our show notes and check out some of the links for Tastemade and some of the recipes that they have online, because they do a really great job of this. It's making me very hungry.
I know, totally. So let's move on to our other spotlight of the week, and that is the Talk app. And the Talk app comes from our friends at Path, who I haven't really had anything nice to say about recently, for no reason other than I just have, Path has kind of gone by the wayside for me, because I only have so many hours in the day. But this is a new standalone app from Path, and what it does is it pulls out the messaging, the private messaging functionality from the normal Path app and gives it its own place. So for example, yesterday, my friend David Prager and I were trying to coordinate when we were going to meet up, because we were going to go to this concert. And so, we're talking, and we're sending stickers back and forth and whatever. And what's nice about the Path Talk app, and Amber, I know that you've been sort of warming up to the Facebook Messenger app lately because it has some kind of neat functionality. And Path has some interesting functionality as well. Okay, so I've got, my friends that, I've talked to recently or looked up recently. But then if you go to the status bar here, this is actually kind of cool. Okay, so it's not telling me any status really besides Leo being near me and a couple other of my Path contacts being in San Francisco. But let's say that, and I will go to my area, and I've turned on transit information. Not only location, but transit information. So I'm looking at basically a bunch of location information that people have turned on. Let's say Leo gets in his Ford Mustang and starts driving. Because of the motion sensor that's in his iPhone, say, or Android app. I assume Path has an Android app as well. The Talk app will tell me Leo is in transit because it knows he's going faster than he could walk or run. And so that is a good way for, if I were to say, you know, let's talk to Leo here, and I'm trying to get a hold of him, let's go ahead and say talk. He'll forgive me for this.
We're using him a lot lately.
Yeah, we really are.
Demos.
Then it provides a little context into like, did Leo just ignore me? Because then I can easily be like, you know what, he's in the car, you know, or that sort of thing. What you can also do, there's some handy dandy stuff that Path has also added for the Talk app where, let's say I messaged him, or let's say, you know, this was a message from Leo to me, and I was like, I'm in the middle of the show right now. I don't know, is this like is this an emergency? You can hold down that little check mark and see there's a little phone icon to quickly call that person. There's a question mark, sort of like, what do you want? There's an X, which I presume means not a good time. There's a check mark meaning, you know, sort of like, it's sort of like a positive, like, okay, or sure, or that sounds good. Or I think that Path has really, it has captured some really interesting contextual issues that plague a lot of us. It's sort of that read receipt thing, like, Amber read my message. Where's the, you know, is she ignoring me? What, you know, there are lots of reasons why you can't get back to somebody right away, you know, when it's a phone call, if you don't answer, then they never know. But we all have so much more information about, you just paid $10 to the iTunes store. Did I? That's weird. That's a weird notification I just got on my phone. Don't really know why that happened. But I don't know. I don't know what you think about this, Amber. What do you think about this app? I'm not totally sold on the app itself because I don't know enough people who are using it, but I think some of the ideas are pretty genius.
But I think Path has always been great at design, right? From the moment they came out with their app, it was one of the most beautifully designed apps that I've ever seen in terms of having a social network on a mobile device. They always did a really slick job, and people started to borrow ideas from them very early on. And it feels like this is kind of the same thing. I mean, great ideas, great design, great user experience. But at the end of the day, you know, do they have a large community, or maybe it doesn't matter, right, Sarah? I mean, that's the point I think we're getting to with all these apps and these social networks is we can't be looking at billions and billions of people joining like the Facebook revolution we've seen over the past few years. It's more about smaller communities and smaller networks, and Path has always done that well. And from a design standpoint, everything they do is beautiful. It
really is. It's a lovely, lovely designed app, and I do think that whether or not the Talk app is a huge success for the company remains to be seen. It's just a few days old, but some of what they've built into it, I guarantee you, all the apps will have the same thing in the next couple of months, because it is really interesting. And of course, this is opt-in. You know, I could say, yeah, I don't really want anyone to know when I'm in transit. That's just not the sort of thing I want to share. Or I don't want anyone to know my location, even passively. So, but if, again, Path assumes that because it's such a small network of people, you've got your 150 friends or less, that these are probably things you'd feel more comfortable sharing with that smaller group than, you know, Facebook or Twitter or, you know, sharing your location all the time. So there's some good stuff there. And yes, as you said, it's designed really, really well. So it's something to consider if you already use Path, if you are looking for a messenger that you just haven't seen so far and none of the other million messengers that are on the market grab you. It's worth looking at.
Definitely. All right. So, Sarah, do we have a voicemail from someone, from Jeff?
Yes, we have a voicemail from Jeff who has a suggestion for us for an upcoming topic.
Sarah and Amber, it's Jeff down in San Jose, calling with a request for a guest. Love to hear an expert from LinkedIn on the show. I feel like LinkedIn sometimes gets a little bit of a bad rap on the show. I know personally I love it, consider myself a power user. I think primarily because I do not think of it as a social network, but purely a business network. So maybe if someone's on and kind of help you guys reframe your approach to LinkedIn, maybe that'll change your minds. But Just a suggestion. Love the show, and keep it up. Thanks.
I think that that's a great idea. Do you think that we give LinkedIn a hard time? I think that sometimes we say that LinkedIn is too many things at once, but I don't know that I certainly don't dislike LinkedIn.
I think the thing about LinkedIn that we always talk about, and this is not to give it a hard time again, but I think we always talk about the fact that, hey, you know, there's a real type of person who would want to use LinkedIn on a regular basis, right? And I think it's great for entrepreneurs and people looking for work. And it's just a matter of figuring out how you fit into that process, because it's not as much about socializing and sharing cool pictures and videos, but it's more about professional expertise and growing your business and those type of things. So I think we don't necessarily beat up on it, but I do see his point. And I think, like many of these social networks that you don't use on a regular basis, we could all do a better job. So I just wrote myself a note to track down a LinkedIn expert. And if anyone is listening or watching the show, please let us know if you have someone in mind. Just tweet at us at Amber Mack and at Sarah Lane. And I think that's a great idea. We've had someone from Pinterest, Sarah. We've had Vine, and the list goes on and on.
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn experts, show yourselves. Yeah, I think LinkedIn is, I feel like I have a pretty good understanding of all of the things that LinkedIn offers. Not only a place to show what your skill set is and your work history and connect to others, but get inspiration from the LinkedIn influencers. Is that what they call them still? LinkedIn influencers, and you know, and look for new jobs and all that good stuff. But yeah, I wouldn't call myself a LinkedIn power user at all, Amber. I am an occasional LinkedIn check-in-er, and that seems to work for me. But hey, I would absolutely love to know how to be able to use it more just in my daily life. It's not just about, you know, job searching, although certainly that's a big part of LinkedIn. But I think that's a great idea, Jeff, and thanks for reminding us that we should do something like that. Speaking of reminding us, if you have guest suggestions, topic suggestions, you read an article and you say, this is perfect for the next social hour, you can always write Amber and I at thesocialhour@twit.tv. We read all of our email each week. You can leave us a voicemail like Jeff did. Just type in 2626-SOCIAL. That's 2626 SOCIAL. That is our Google Voice mailbox. You can always record a video, upload it somewhere, and send us the link. And during the show and between shows, Amber and I are always looking for your feedback as well. Of course, we're on Twitter. We're on, well, I'm on Facebook a lot lately, Amber. I don't know why. I just am. And I was going to say Pinterest, but I don't know that would be the right place to suggest a guest to us. But I bet you could do it. I bet you could do it in a really beautiful way.
I think Twitter is definitely the best place to reach out. Just easy and
I think so too. Yeah,
really simple.
Yeah, you know, kind of keep everything brief. Maybe a link or two. All good. We will not ignore you. All right, let's move on to our weekly Rad or Fad.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. It's a service called Victorious, and the idea behind Victorious is that it will allow people who are considered social media stars, particularly people who have large YouTube followings, to develop their own little community through the app, through their own, almost like their own platform in some ways. So the gist of it is that they're saying that many times with some of these social media stars, they're relying too much on the YouTube platform or other platforms, and they aren't able to monetize as much as they should be able to because big technology companies own those platforms. But there is a chance with something like this, Victorious, which has been developed for individuals to go on and to basically build their own community through their own technology in some ways. The technology is already there, the infrastructure is there, but it's like a white label product that they would then go and they would say, okay, this is, you know, for Michelle Phan from YouTube. She has a massive community. She could have all of her content there and have a better chance of making more money than living entirely inside of something that's owned by Google or another company.
I think that this works really well for, you know, a handful of stars that are sort of big enough. But yeah, I think this is really a really good idea. I think that all of us have really experienced on various levels of, you know, online celebrity or whatever you call it. You know, I used to have a Facebook page, and eventually I was like, this doesn't seem like the right place to, you know, to keep pushing people to hang out in, because I don't know what's going to happen to Facebook in a while. So I'm just kind of use it as my social thing, but not kind of create my brand there. And in these days that we're in, you know, New York Times getting rid of blogs, like, is it really, you know, your own website? Is that really the model for online presences? For some people it is, but yeah, it seems like Victorious is saying, let's take it, you know, to the next level here, because people are on mobile more and more. People have different ways of engaging. Let's build something that is it's all about you. But yeah, you're not just part of some machine of a social network that can change the rules on you at any time.
Yeah, and I mean, then you have a chance to potentially monetize the content that you're putting out there. You could sell your own advertisements within your mobile hub. You can do things that you can't do in other platforms, because most of these other platforms, the company owns the advertising experience and the relationships as well. My only thing, and this is why I think I'd have to put this into a fad, Sarah, is that I don't think necessarily that we're ready for this yet. I think in a few years, maybe it will make sense, but I think there's too much comfort with people within those communities that are well known right now. And so it feels a little bit like a fad that I'm not sure is going to catch on, especially if you have to go and download yet another app or a piece of software, again, that people just aren't familiar with.
Yeah, it's a tough sell, I guess, unless, again, yeah, your star is so bright online that you can get a lot of people to go ahead and download your app or whatever. But yeah, I don't know, Amber. I kind of feel like this is a fad as well. I'm not quite sure, because I think it's going to work really well for certain people and not well at all for others. And that just depends really, I guess, on your fans and your community. But it's certainly not a bad idea, but I think it's creating a solution for a problem that's somewhat temporary.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It works for a select few people, but it's such a small number of people, right? I mean, you have to have a pretty massive online audience to believe that, okay, you know what? I can have my own network where people are going to come just because they love engaging with me. And I think it's a very small percentage of people. So in that case, I don't find it as relevant to the majority of people out there. So I think we'll stick with fad until we're proven otherwise, which could happen.
It could. Victorious may really take off, maybe with the right YouTube celebrity or something. We'll see. It's interesting, but yeah, I think I'm going to cautiously say fad as well until we're proved wrong, and that could happen. And frankly, I hope it does, because I hope everybody is able to use Victorious to make a great brand presence that they weren't able to make with anything else.
It would be good to see, but it might take some time.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, that just about does it for this episode of The Social Hour. Thanks to everybody for watching and listening. If you're not watching us live and you would like to next time, we are live on Thursdays. We are sandwiched right between two other really great shows. Know How is right before us, and Coding 101 is right after. It's a jam-packed 3 hours of great content. So do join us live if you can. If you ever miss anything, want to go over any of the stories or links that we shared, or subscribe to the show, twit.tv/TSH is the website to go to. Of course, that's where you can jump off and see all of our other wonderful Twit shows. And Amber and I have really been on a roll. Besides today, it's the first time in many weeks that we actually didn't have a guest. We were supposed to have the founder of Ringly on the show, and unfortunately she had to postpone that interview. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to her sooner than later. But it's been such a good fun run the last couple of months on The Social Hour. So if you're joining us, you're a new audience member, or if you missed a few, that's obviously the place to go and make sure that you're all caught up to speed. Amber may even sneeze here or there.
I did sneeze. I actually muted myself during the lynda.com ad, Sarah.
Did you?
Sneaky.
Oh my goodness. I was so excited about the online courses. I didn't even notice. Didn't even notice.
It's all good. All good. So yeah, we'll definitely try to get Ringly on maybe for an episode we have planned in a couple of weeks. And if anyone else has other suggestions, like we've said a couple times during the show, please do let us know. And we love getting great guests on the show.
We sure do. It's been a great show. Thanks everybody for watching and listening. Until next week, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm Amber MacArthur, and we'll see you soon.